are becoming more numerous, have higher net worth at a younger age, and increasingly recognize that because of their financial security have a great range of choice about which they will make decisions about the quality of choice. So you got people who are increasingly at a younger age having to make choices about their arena of freedom in financial life. Number two, and you will find this already, and it will increase in your work. Although those of us that have to raise money can never get enough of this. Wealth holders are increasingly seeking out rather than resisting greater charitable giving. Now, it may not come to you. You say, if they're also interested in greater charitable giving, without me asking, how come I'm not getting it? It's like the churches that say to their parishioners, you know, it's all God's money. And I'll say to my church, yes, it is God's money, but it isn't yours. They approach their philanthropy increasingly with an entrepreneurial disposition, or with entrepreneurship. The entrepreneurship is defined in philanthropy the following way. People experience that there is a gap between a need and the resources provided to solve it. So there's a gap between demand and supply that people would be happier if it were closed. So an entrepreneur, but not just entrepreneurs, recognize that gap. And then they recognize or understand or create an idea, a new idea. It might even be for a new area, an idea that will close that gap. How are we going to close that gap? And third, what's the difference between an investor and an entrepreneur is that the entrepreneur works to advance the return on investment. The entrepreneur is present in the organization, and the entrepreneur's skills increase the return on investment. Personally, I am sure that somewhere in my retirement fund, I own Coca-Cola stock. But I cannot drink enough Coca-Cola to affect the return on my investment. I've tried. But an entrepreneur who is immediately present, the chief characteristic that distinguishes them from a corporate executive or from a regular organization is that they are personally affecting the rate of return. Think of Warren Buffett, think of Bill Gates. Their own skills create the value as well as other people's. And today's philanthropists are very interested, if not in creating new enterprises that they will be directly engaged in, they are interested in helping you or working with you, and sometimes when it's difficult, directing you, right, to carry out these ideas, and they will be watching. Right? Now, we always have had uppity donors. right? But today, the extra strength of a donor is very often couched not just in privilege or arrogance. It's couched in being able to have talents that will help make a difference. And even those who aren't entrepreneurs will be having that framework. Another major new physics of philanthropy is that the donors no longer view the charitable organization as doing good with their money. See, in the past, the charitable organization used the donor as a tool to accomplish its goals. It's like the government. The government uses your tax money to accomplish its goals. But more and more wealth holders are saying, we don't want to be your tool, we want you to be our tool. You see the reversal in that. And that causes conflicts at times, but that is something that increasingly you, I, everyone must work with. And from the point of view of the donor, it's a legitimate direction. They have a tendency to frame their giving in terms of the development of human capital. They will talk about, no matter what they're doing, even Bill Gates, when he talks about the vaccines that allow people in Africa to live longer, he talks about that as saving the human capital investments that those countries have placed in educating their citizenry so they won't lose that investment in human capital. And think how many of your own gifts could be described as having the goal of developing human capital. There is an increasing focus on global causes. They seek out collaboration. There is a tendency toward lifetime giving. They plan to limit the amount of inheritance to heirs. They are not ashamed to say that caring for others is a mode, is a way of self-fulfillment. In the past, donors would say, don't worry about it, I'm just doing it for you. But today, donors are also looking for the growth in their moral biography. And they're looking for you not to use them just as a tool, but to enhance their life, to enhance their moral biography. More and more, even college students, young people, are making philanthropy a familiar and regular part of the way they live their financial life, even if it's little amounts. And one of the things that has caused this, of course, is people like Bono. It is also the crises that arise. Even Obama's election was an understanding of how, by purpose being intense enough, you could gather a concentration of even small contributions to make a large difference. And those people that were contributing to Obama's campaign, and I will also say to McCain's, they didn't see it. Not the wealthy saw it as access, but regular people saw it as a form of social care. I'm going to get Obama elected because it's going to make so much difference for so many people in a positive way. They didn't gain access by it. But philanthropy since then has followed that mode of presenting a clear enough and important enough purpose and finding that large numbers of people will contribute small amounts of dollars that add up. Finally, they see that philanthropy, and they see this explicitly, is a way to create greater happiness for themselves and others at the same time. That is, deeper moral biographies for themselves and others at the same time. And by happiness, which is what Aristotle says is the ultimate goal of life. When I was a kid, I learned the catechism. Who made you? God made me. Why did God make you? To know, love, and serve God on this earth and to be happy with Him forever in the next life. You know, when I thought that heaven was like going to Mass every morning like the nuns made us, I actually said to myself, I do not want to go to heaven. Oh, boring. Now, I didn't say I wanted to go to hell, but I just couldn't see myself being at Mass for eternity. I since learned there's baseball in heaven. Now, this last point, this happiness, I operationalized as the combination of effectiveness and significance in my life, in yours, and what we're trying to increase for the beneficiaries. Is that not right? And for ourselves, effectiveness and significance. Now, given this, I want to talk about the area that leads me to say that what I have started to talk about is at a deeper level not about formal philanthropy, it's about life. And this is the point at which one of my sons say, you mean they invite you to talk? I want to introduce something you already know, but in a different way. The notion of philia. P-H-I-L-I-A. Philia. The root word of philanthropy. And you all know that that is translated philia anthropos. Love of humankind. But that is really a mistranslation. There is something that is specific about philia as one of the types of love, different from agape and different from eros. And of course we all know that eros is our favorite. Philia is not love. It is friendship love. For Aristotle and some of the other ancients that wrote about, and it's remarkable that these words here, philanthropia, is almost exactly the Greek translation. Is that where you got it? And it's the same as the Spanish. So a Greek or a Spaniard would understand that this was about philanthropy today. But I make the meaning of philanthropy come out of an understanding of this word and the understanding of a more contemporary word as development by a philosopher in the late 60s. So we'll call this Aristotle. One of my students, I used the word Aristotle, and in a paper not knowing, and I not